This is a Ford-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the largest displacement and most powerful aircraft carrier in the world today, and a symbol of the U.S. Navy's deterrent capability. As an aircraft carrier, its most important attribute is its capacity to carry aircraft. The Ford class can carry a total of over 75 aircraft. A standard loadout includes 2 squadrons, each with about 12 F-35C aircraft, and 2 squadrons of F divided by a -18E divided by F Super Hornets, 5EA, 18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft, and 4E, 2D advanced Hawkeye early warning aircraft. 2C, 2 Greyhound transport aircraft and 8 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters. To accommodate such a large air wing, the carrier is naturally not small. The Ford class is 337 meters long, 77 meters wide, and 78 meters high, equivalent to a 26-story building. Its full load displacement reaches 112,000 tons, making it a veritable mobile island. Besides the United States, France is the only country with a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. Compared to their flagship, the Charles de Gaulle, the Ford class's displacement is 2.67 times that of the Charles de Gaulle. If calculated by cost, it's even more outrageous. The cost of one Ford-class carrier reaches $13 billion, which could purchase 6 Charles de Gaulles, with even money left over. Such a terrifying behemoth requires a huge energy supply. The Ford-class carrier is equipped with 2 A-1B nuclear reactors, with a total output power exceeding 1,400 megawatts. This is the energy heart of the carrier, driving 4 5-bladed propellers at the bottom of the ship, enabling the behemoth to reach a top speed of over 65 kilometers per hour, making it the fastest aircraft carrier currently available. The nuclear reactors also provide electricity for all facilities on the carrier, with a total power generation capacity 3 times that of the previous generation Nimitz-class carriers. The U.S. Navy expects the Ford class to serve in the fleet for approximately 90 years, until 2105. This means that during future upgrades, there will be extensive technological modifications. Therefore, the currently planned systems only utilize half of the available electrical power, with the remaining half reserved for future upgrade plans. So, as the backbone of the U.S. Navy for the next several decades, what unique features does the Ford class embody? Today, we will discuss the Sea Overlord, the Ford class aircraft carrier. The Ford class aircraft carrier's origins trace back to 1975. At that time, the first Nimitz-class carrier had just begun service, and the U.S. Navy initiated a series of concept proposals for the next-generation aircraft carrier, known as CVNX. These proposals covered small, medium, and large aircraft carriers, involving a total of 15 different hull sizes. The launch and recovery methods also included catapult launch and ski jump takeoff, with each method incorporating both traditional deck layouts and new designs, resulting in over 50 design options in total. However, Americans have always favored large aircraft carriers. The more they can carry, the better. Therefore, the final plan still followed the hull design and deck layout of the Kitty Hawk class, but incorporated innovative technologies in other key areas of aircraft carrier design. On August 11, 2005, construction began on the lead ship of the Ford class, CVN-78, taking 8 years to complete. In November 2013, the first Ford class carrier was officially launched. I, Chris, and the United States ship Gerald are Ford. May God bless the ship and all who sail her. Following this was a lengthy commissioning process, which took another 5 years, and the ship joined the U.S. Navy in July 2017. Visually, the Ford class appears similar to previous carriers, but internally, there are some differences. The location of the Ford class's island is different from previous carriers. The island has been moved closer to the stern, allowing more aircraft to be parked forward of the island, thus speeding up deck operations. Correspondingly, the island on the Ford class is smaller. Compared to the 30-meter-long island on the Nimitz class, the Ford class island is only 18 meters long, increasing the usable deck space. Forward of the island is a 25-meter-long elevator that can transport aircraft from the hangar to the flight deck. The elevator is located on the side of the carrier, so elevator operations do not interfere with aircraft launch and recovery. In addition to the elevator forward of the island, the Ford class has 2 more elevators, located on both sides of the carrier. The placement of these elevators is very deliberate. On early carriers, elevators were located in the center of the flight deck. If a malfunction occurred and it got stuck below, it would leave a large hole on the deck, hindering aircraft launch and recovery operations. Therefore, in the evolution of aircraft carriers, elevators were moved to the sides, but their positioning remained critical. For example, on the Forrestal class, the first class of carriers after World War II, there were 4 elevators. However, the portside elevator was located at the top of the angled deck, and using this elevator would interfere with the operation of the 2 catapults behind it. This issue was resolved on the Enterprise class, where the portside catapult was moved to the end of the angled deck. This layout has been maintained, and the Nimitz class has the same configuration, 3 on the starboard side and 1 on the port side. Logically, more elevators should increase aircraft transfer efficiency. However, on the Ford class, these configurations were changed, with 1 starboard elevator removed, yet efficiency was actually improved. This is because on Nimitz-class carriers, refueling, aircraft maintenance, and ordnance loading all take place in different locations. Aircraft frequently need to be moved around the deck. On the Ford class, however, engineering personnel redesigned the movement paths for ordnance replenishment and refueling, optimizing routes and consolidating functions into specific areas, eliminating the need for frequent aircraft relocation. Compared to the Nimitz class, sortie generation efficiency has increased by 25%, and deck personnel have been reduced by approximately 25%. Unlike all previous U.S. Navy aircraft carriers, the Ford class utilizes electromagnetic catapult technology, replacing traditional steam catapults. Steam catapults require different settings for different aircraft models, which slows down launch rates and increases workload. Additionally, due to their complex mechanical structure, the launch troughs are often corroded, requiring high maintenance frequency and significant freshwater resources. Electromagnetic catapults, on the other hand, have a simpler structure. As long as there is electricity, they can launch. They can also automatically adjust preset parameters based on aircraft models, achieving smoother and more efficient launches. Another point is that steam catapults use the explosive force of high-temperature steam to propel aircraft, a system lacking acceleration control. The acceleration is greatest at the moment of launch, which impacts the aircraft's structural life and the pilot. Electromagnetic catapults, however, are more controllable and can provide relatively stable acceleration, reducing the stress on the aircraft and pilot. With the aircraft's engines and afterburner, a powerful magnetic force generated by electromagnets in 2 launch rails propels the aircraft to 240 km per hour in 3 seconds. The maximum launch load for aircraft has also been significantly increased. Overall launch efficiency is 25% higher than the Nimitz class, capable of launching 160 sorties per day for 30 consecutive days. A maximum of 270 sorties per day is possible. The arresting gear used for landing also features innovative designs. This system is referred to by the U.S. Navy as the Advanced Arresting Gear, AAG. The arresting devices on the deck are equipped with turbogenerators. When an aircraft hooks the cable, it drives the turbine to rotate, converting 2/3 of the landing energy into electrical energy for reuse. Unlike traditional hydraulic arresting gear, this system is more flexible. Within 2 seconds of landing, the computer automatically adjusts the resistance based on the aircraft's kinetic energy changes, thereby reducing damage to the aircraft's structure. However, as of now, the performance of both the catapult and arresting systems is unsatisfactory. Electromagnetic catapults malfunction on average every 614 launches, achieving only 15% of the Navy's required mean cycles between failures, MCBF. The arresting system's performance is even worse, malfunctioning on average every 460 cycles, which is only about 3% of the predetermined requirement. Even President Trump has publicly criticized the electromagnetic catapult system. Right, the catapult system. However, in future improvement plans, the Ford class is likely to be equipped with electromagnetic railguns. In U.S. Army land tests, the cannon has a range of 200 kilometers and can fire projectiles at speeds up to Mach 7. The projectile's penetration power is extremely strong, with excellent performance. However, electromagnetic railguns require a massive energy supply and extensive cooling for the barrel and superconductors to generate the strong magnetic field and propel the projectile. Therefore, it is impossible to deploy them on smaller platforms. Only ships like the Ford class, with their huge electrical reserves, can meet the requirements. However, typically, the aircraft carrier's weapon systems are not the first to engage. Taking the Ford-class's first deployment as an example, in October 2012, the lead Ford-class carrier sailed across the Atlantic from North America to Europe for military exercises with NATO countries. The entire carrier strike group included one Ford-class carrier, one Ticonderoga-class missile cruiser, 4 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, one Freedom-class littoral combat ship, 2 fleet replenishment ships, and 2 ammunition ships. The first deployment involved a considerable number of exercises, including surface strikes, anti-submarine warfare, and air interception missions. Thanks to the significantly increased automation on the Ford-class carrier, the crew size has been correspondingly reduced. The minimum crew required for carrier operations is around 2,600, with up to 4,500 including air crews and support personnel. However, operating at sea for extended periods, sometimes for weeks or even months, can be monotonous. Following the recent exercises with NATO countries, in May 2023, the Ford-class deployed to the European region for its first operational deployment, scheduled for approximately 5 months. Unexpectedly, the Israel-Palestine conflict broke out midway. To support Israel and prevent further escalation of the conflict, the Carrier Strike Group began operations in the Mediterranean region, concluding its deployment of a full 239 days only in late January of this year. During this period, the crew had only the vast ocean for company. Therefore, compared to other branches of the military, the Navy generally enjoys the best food and welfare standards. Within the Navy, aircraft carriers have the most ample space, so their dining and recreational facilities are the most luxurious. In terms of dining, the carrier has 100 chefs preparing 4 meals a day for the sailors. The variety of food is quite extensive, with hamburgers, bread, fruits, steaks, and pizzas readily available. The kitchens operate almost 24 hours a day, from early morning at 6 a.m. until late at night, producing approximately 17,000 meals daily. All food is freshly prepared, except for late-night snacks, which may include some leftovers from the day. The menu changes every 2 weeks to offer the crew the richest and most diverse flavors. Compared to the crew, the chef's work might be even more demanding. However, a mess hall is still a mess hall, and eating there all the time can become tiresome. No problem, there are also retail stores on board, where you can purchase snacks and beverages for a change of taste. If what you want isn't in the store, you can ask the retail service provider. Usually, as long as the request is not too excessive, they will provide it during the next restock. Craving a Starbucks? No problem, they have it here too. There are even carrier-exclusive flavors you won't find elsewhere. The Ford-class aircraft carrier typically carries about 60 days' worth of food. However, generally, aircraft carriers have other support ships responsible for logistics. During their missions, these ships will resupply the carrier with weapons, ammunition, supplies, and other equipment. There are 2 main methods for cargo transfer. Helicopters can be used to lift supplies one by one and transport them back and forth. Alternatively, a rope transport system can connect the supply ship and the carrier. With both ships in a stable state, items can be transported. This method is efficient and fast, allowing for the replenishment of a large quantity of supplies in a short period. Fuel lines can also be attached to the ropes to refuel the carrier's aircraft. In addition to the abundant food, the carrier also has a barber shop. If your hair gets too long, you can get a trendy American cut and instantly become a sharp-looking young man. A gym is also standard, with all the necessary facilities, including a stationary bike with a sea view, allowing you to cycle while enjoying the ocean. On rest days, you can play basketball on the flight deck or watch movies. During missions, there are occasional underwater activities to boost morale. During these times, the carrier stops, and a specific area around it is cordoned off. Sailors can jump into the sea to relax, which is a good way to relieve stress. For those who prefer quiet, there's also a library on board where you can read books to cultivate your mind. However, compared to these public facilities, the crew's living quarters are extremely cramped. They are typically 4-tier bunks, with 8 people in a small room. The ceiling height is very low, about the size of a coffin, making it difficult to even turn over. Every 40 people share a toilet, but the toilet pipes are too narrow to handle the user load, often leading to congestion problems. According to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, each cleaning of a clogged toilet costs $400,000, significantly increasing the carrier's operating costs. During the Ford class's 239-day operational deployment, it sailed over 154,600 kilometers and conducted 43 resupply operations. Aircraft flight hours exceeded 17,826 hours, with a total of 1,039 sorties launched. The culinary team provided 3.1 million meals. The most popular item was hamburgers, with over 150,000 consumed. Overall, the performance of its first operational deployment was considered acceptable. The Ford-class aircraft carriers are expected to have 10 ships built, gradually replacing the Nimitz class and maintaining the number of operational U.S. aircraft carriers at no less than 11. This is because U.S. Code 5062 stipulates that the Navy's combat force must possess at least 11 operational aircraft carriers. Currently, only the lead ship, the Gerald R. Ford, is in service, with 3 more under construction. Notably, the 4th Ford-class carrier will be the first U.S. aircraft carrier named after an African American, the USS Doris Miller, in honor of his heroic actions at Pearl Harbor. Overall, as the first new class of aircraft carriers for the U.S. military in the 21st century, the Ford class has incorporated a significant amount of innovative technology in many areas, aiming for a leap forward. This is also one of the reasons for the frequent accidents in its early service period. Currently, the Ford class has only completed 1 operational deployment, and many systems on board have not yet reached full maturity. It cannot yet possess the complete combat capability of the Nimitz class in the short term. However, generally, the first ship in a class serves a more experimental purpose. To fully assess the capabilities of this class of aircraft carriers, we must look at the performance of its subsequent sister ships. Okay, that's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like, comment, and share. With over 20,000 likes, we'll discuss the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier in our next video. See you in the next one.